Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Tactical Approach. I am Greg, and joining me is Wes.
How's it going?
And Kurt.
That's me.
And today we've got some news for you regarding U.S. nationals. We're in kind of a Groundhog Day. We just keep doing episodes about U.S. nationals. But this is for 2027?
Six.
The next one.
It'll be November 2026.
The upcoming one. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so Nationals 2026 is what we're talking about now. Yeah, big news.
Yes,
it's in
once
our
again,
area.
we're going to have U.S. Nationals. Once again, the players have come together to ensure that this tradition carries on. And this year, Kansas City was voted to host U.S. Nationals for Song of Ice and Fire. And we will be doing so within the Meeple-a-thon convention. It is a convention that raises money for charity here in Kansas City. Wes, you know a little bit about Meeple-a-thon.
Just a little bit. Benefits a Turning Point Kansas City. Long story short, the proceeds all go to helping homeless people in the greater Kansas City metro.
Yes, so you can play your games and feel good while doing it.
What exactly is a meeple?
Wait, really?
I'm out of the loop on that.
A meeple is a little game piece that looks like a person, but it's like very ambiguous.
Yeah.
It's like just like a blobby kind of.
You've seen the little wooden tubby looking people things in board games. That's all it is. There's actually like a lawsuit over it and everything.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Over who owns the rights to the word?
I don't know what the end result was, but the original company, I guess, decided they needed to sue about the term meeple being used, and I don't think it went anywhere because meeple is still everywhere.
Well, you can tell the companies to stop using it, but you can't force the gamers to change.
But the important thing,
it's handed down from son to child.
The important thing is we're gonna have our Song of Ice and Fire Nationals tournament. Meeple-a-thon takes place over 3 days, November 6th to 8th, so you can go ahead and mark that on your calendars. That'll be on a weekend, a Friday through a Sunday, and we will carry on.
Yeah. Kansas City, it's a smaller place than Chicago, so the upside is there's not really as much traffic to compete with. One of the downsides of traffic is in the Kansas City area. I think we have one of the nation's, I can't remember if it's worst or most dangerous highway loops. So be aware if you're driving around Kansas City. It's in kind of a bizarre loop. There's like exits and entrances and trucks everywhere. So be concerned, be afraid, but you won't be in gridlock for the most part.
Yeah, it moves relatively at a decent pace.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time Meeple-a-thon and Nationals happens, it could be significantly better because a lot of this highway work we're doing, because we're hosting the World Cup this year, is also hopefully supposed to help. We'll see.
Yeah, we're still kind of figuring out that last year Meeple-a-thon was at the Overland Park Convention Center. This year it's going to be at the Kansas City Convention Center, which is downtown. So it'll be a little different than it was last year. But
is that over kind of by the, what is it, an opera house or something? I think you'll have to go through the garbage traffic loop to get there.
Great.
Is it where they?
Well, the good news though is the streetcar expansion. I'm pretty sure is supposed to be done by then as well.
Yeah, the streetcars are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're such
that runs north to south,
and the streetcar is free and should be right by there. So could be also an option for people.
They are a fun addition. So our city, we've been working gradually on adding a little tram that just goes north and south along our downtown area. You can get in it. And actually, so if you're going to come out here and you want to just see the sights, a great place to start is go down to the plaza. The plaza is like a place where you can get like nice-ish food and shopping and things like that. It's a lot of like outlet stores, but there's a library. But anyway, though, you can get on the tram and you can ride it down to Union Station. And then Union Station is also a museum. Crown Center is another shopping center. And then they've got like a little tiny aquarium nearby there. Or you could ride it all the way down to Riverside. And then Riverside has some pretty decent food, like some good casual stuff. There's a barbecue place called Pigwitch down at the end of that. And then if you keep walking, there's like a giant Chinese grocery store. And they sell pomelos. And if you've never had a pomelo, you shouldn't bother because they're terrible fruit. They suck.
Really selling it, huh?
But they're selling them. Yeah, my friend and I, we were all excited. We're like, oh, a pomelo. I've never had a pomelo. It turns out what it is it's the predecessor to the grapefruit. It's the grapefruit before we taught it to learn its lesson and shrink its rind down a little bit. I think it's meant to be eaten by like wild pigs. So it has an incredibly thick rind. So we got it home and we cut it open, and it's like the size of a watermelon, but there's only a grapefruit worth of food in it.
Huh.
So you have to cut all the way through. It sucks. It's terrible fruit. But you can buy one from the Chinese store at the end of Riverside.
Well, yeah. River Market has a Chinese store. There's a game shop down there, level 1 game. The City Diner, if you like diner food in the morning, Greg mentioned the Union Station. There's usually an exhibit at Union Station, usually something going on there. They had the NFL draft there a couple years back. Barbecue, oh boy.
Yeah, we got a lot of options.
Kansas City's known for its barbecue. Should we dive into the barbecue, boys?
Yeah, we could. There's a lot of different options. It's like, what kind of barbecue do you like? Do you like the more vinegar taste, or do you want more molasses? Because we have choices there.
Mm-hmm. If you like the Carolina kind of vinegar barbecue, Arthur Bryant's comes to mind.
Which is weird, seeing as Arthur Bryant's is a Kansas City icon, and it is not traditional Kansas City barbecue.
Right. I love Bryant's. It's in my top 3.
Oh, it's good. It's just not the sweet molasses Kansas City barbecue.
Yeah, if you're talking like the more molasses, sauce-based barbecue for Kansas City, you're thinking probably of like Jack Stack or Gates or Joe's.
Well, there's a place, if our audience doesn't mind being guided to parts of town that maybe not as safe for tourists, there's a place called LC's, kind of by Swope Park.
Yeah,
LC's is really good. That's like a sweet barbecue.
Yep, I've been there. My personal favorite is Joe's Kansas City, which was previously called Oklahoma Joe's, but then they rebranded to the city they operate in.
Listen, so funny thing, Kansas City is actually not really in Kansas. It's actually in Missouri.
Well, it's in both.
It's partly in Kansas, yeah. I think it's like majority in Missouri, and so it's
KC Mo is bigger than KCK.
And KC Mo supposedly, potentially, maybe came first.
Yeah. So having things named for states that they're not technically part of, I feel like that's a very Kansas City kind of thing.
Yes.
Oklahoma Joe's didn't need to be nervous.
Gates is a historical one, although I'm not really a fan of Gates.
You have to, Gates is amazing for lunch. It is an experience. It's good barbecue, not the greatest, but it's cheaper than a lot of the rest. And you go to Gates for the experience. And their lunch sandwiches are, it's been a few months since I've been, but they're actually affordable.
Which one is by the Nelson Atkins Museum? So as a thing to see, the Nelson Atkins Museum is kind of cool because they have these giant shuttlecocks, like sitting out on the lawn.
Yeah, the art museum, yeah.
Yeah, you can see the shuttlecocks for free.
There's a Winstead's over there, the one on the plaza.
Winstead's.
Best milkshakes in the country. I will fight people on that.
Oh, for those, you guys, if you play tabletop games, we have a tabletop store called Tabletop, or Cardboard Corner. There's actually 2 Cardboard Corners, though. There's one over in Lenexa, like a Lenexa Community Center. That is, it's a smaller deal. It's like a food court, more or less. So that may not be what you're looking for, but the one next to Tabletop, down off of Metcalf, that's actually our home game store.
Yep, in Overland Park.
In Overland Park. It is busy. You can buy drinks or food or whatever, and then you can actually grab a box of whatever game you want to play. You can sit down and play with your friends for a while. It is a super cool setup. We know that's an interest that you guys will actually have because you're already tabletop gamers. Tabletop Gaming Hobby, that's where we go. It's an amazing store.
Greg says you can grab a box. It's literally an entire wall of board games that are free to play.
An entire wall of games that you can play for free.
Yeah. If you don't know what to play, I would recommend Everdell. They have that up there. Everdell's a fun one. It's kind of an elaborate multi-piece set. You put together a little tree, and then you play as a bunch of little animals, and you're trying to build a city.
If you're sticking to just downtown, there's another shop that does games and beers and food, and although you have to pay paid entry for that place. It's called Pawn and Pint. So that's a downtown location. That's an option for people, too.
Well, there's Up Down. It's an arcade bar. Yeah.
Oh, yes, there's Up Down.
Down's fun.
It's an arcade bar. They have every arcade game you could think of.
They got a lot of fun things. So yeah, there's lots of stuff that you can do in Kansas City aside from the tournament. But let's talk a little bit about the game itself. It's been going through a bunch of theoretical playtest things. We've thought about talking about them because, wow, it's so much that's different. And then it all changes again, and anything we might have said becomes irrelevant. For example, now they're proposing to make light cavalry have 2 wounds, so that they're 8 wound trays. Won't that be an experience? A change.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually really like the idea of playing with wound counts as a way to balance units. I've advocated for that for quite some time, because we've already seen it with the Kingsguard units and the Rainbow Guard. It's like, this is another unit, or not unit, this is another unit stat that we can dabble in that they haven't, explored too much before.
I mean,
right? We've had a little bit of variation with, like, giants and dragons and mammoths and whatever, but otherwise it's always been 12 wounds pretty consistently.
It would be better. I mean, the problem is that there's a lot of, like, design by feel to this game, I feel like. And over the years, it's gotten more balanced because they just go through, like, a patch. So it's like, oh, here we release this broken mess, and then gradually patch it until it feels better. And now we're just kind of going into, like, and here's just a bag of broken glass. And this unit's going to have 8 wounds. And it's like, okay, so it would be cool if gradually it got balanced to where it worked and it was worth, like, a good 6 points or whatever. But it makes me nervous seeing them be like, yeah, here's your brigands. They're going to be 8 wounds. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
I mean,
and what do I get for that? It's like
almost the entire, like, half the Targaryens would be 8 wounds, and
potentially, maybe
the definition of a glass cannon if that happened, because pretty much anything could one-shot him.
Yeah, but we're not certain what attack profiles are going to look like, and we're not certain, like, what other benefits they're going to get for having that lower wound count. So, like, for one thing we are pretty sure about is if they go through with that, like, cavalry might maintain some of that mobility that cavalry are known for now, whereas heavy cavalry might be locked forward into, like, a forward shift instead of getting that free maneuver, right?
Yeah. Of all the things to be okay with reduced wounds, stuff like cavalry that can actually maneuver would be one of the things that would make a little bit more sense. Because as it is, like, you just never want them to be touched anyway. But my main concern with it, though, is the way the ranks work. Because it's like you get hit, you take 4 wounds and you're down a rank, and now the unit's kind of ineffective. And losing 4 wounds is pretty easy. Like, all you have to do is eat a single archer volley, or, I don't know, have an unlucky panic test or something, and that'd be it. If you can use the maneuverability to keep them alive, that would be fair. But if there wind up being a bunch of mechanics that can just, like, easily cripple the unit in round 1, then no one's going to use them, because you're just going to put it on the table and it's going to be useless. Like, with the Kingsmen, we talk about, or not the Kingsmen, with the Kingsguard, we talk a little bit about, they have problems with survivability. They have resilience to try to help soak wounds, but the big issue is things will fly in, do auto wounds, and then just wipe the unit anyway. But when they lose a rank, at least they still have their maximum number of attacks. So getting ranked isn't quite as bad for them. I think for light cavalry, it'll just be devastating as is. But this is kind of where we get into, like, well, we see this big change. It's quite drastic. And the next time we see playtest files, it'll go completely different.
Yeah, so maybe today looks like light cavalry could be 2 wounds per model, and then maybe tomorrow they'll be back to 3. And we don't know. Like, maybe they'll have the built-in heal, like Kingsguard have, restore those losses sometimes. We mentioned, like, auto wounds. Like, we've just seen precision and critical blow change to where precision's no longer an ability, but critical blow is. But critical blow is just what precision was, and it's like,
that's so pedantic. He's like, no, precision should be a critical blow, because in my mind, a precise attack doesn't auto wound, but a critical blow does. It's like, what? This is all just kind of like, we've got the definition. We've been playing the game for long enough. We have it defined in our heads already. You don't have to redefine it for it.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening there. What else is new in the world of Game of Thrones? I think we have a new TV show.
We do, but before we get into it, though, I have 2 axes to grind and then a couple of funny notes. So, Kurt, just before we move on, Kurt, do you remember you were saying, wouldn't it be funny if pyros went back to wounding themselves?
Sure.
Well, in the current playtest file, they're doing it again. They're dropping the pyro flasks, yeah. Setting themselves on fire.
Oh, boy. Exciting. I'm sure. I love the goofiness of it. I worry myself. I haven't actually looked at the unit yet. What they're gaining in return for that.
Nothing. They're not really gaining
nothing.
anything. Yeah, it's the same unit pretty much. They got like a little cheaper, and now they have a 6-inch movement speed or whatever. But overall, it feels very much like a side grade with a risk to wound yourself, but only in melee. So it doesn't look like a good unit. But it cracked me up that you were saying, like, wouldn't it be funny if they brought back that awful mechanic? And then there it is, it's back.
I kind of like the flavor and the fluff of it, because wildfire is, notoriously difficult to keep under control. And
well, I mean, they didn't have guys in the book. Nobody was on the front lines just hurling it like with their arms stretched. Yeah, it wasn't just like wildfire Molotovs.
Tyrion's like talking with like Cersei about that. It's like, yeah, we'll throw fire at them from above, and like Tyrion's like, I could very easily see that going sideways quick.
Yeah,
we have pots of this stuff on the walls.
Yeah, they were talking about what a bad idea it was in the book. Yeah, and then they're just like, and now we just have a unit of guys who are just like, and it's like
frontline troops on the field.
Yeah,
and they're fast. Can you imagine running full speed with essentially volatile explosives? Like, what happens if your buddy next to you trips, man?
Yeah.
And
you can't just jump on it like a grenade.
I mean, you can. It's just not going to do much.
You know where they've gone wrong is that they're putting it in the hands of guys. They need to get in touch with the Boltons and get their bastard girls and just strap the vials of wildfire to the dogs. Yeah. All right, go.
Poor puppies.
Get them, Sparky. Yeah. So that's fun. Again, no idea if that's going to stick, but I thought that was funny. And then I did also want to say, so I've been listening to the podcast that Michael Chanel puts out where he kind of, and he says some things, and there's two main things that I want to gripe, but I also want to point out the mountain. They're doing this weird thing now where he gets +2 dice to hit instead of doing +2 wounds. And actually, I think that's better because there are so many rules that are like block hits. And when he was auto wounding, it's just like, oh, your rules don't matter, which is kind of lame. So it's good he's doing hits, but for whatever reason, they feel the need to tack on this drawback. So he's still wounding himself when he attacks, which I don't understand. So you could actually double up. You could put him in your pyromancers. And I think you could just suicide. You could suicide the unit, have the pyromancers run forward, roll all ones, and the unit is gone. It'd be great. So that's there. Chanel, he talks about like, oh, people won't use units that have drawbacks. He's like, I give them such powerful abilities, but nobody will touch them. And I don't understand why he thinks that these abilities are powerful. Like, +2 hits is powerful, but dealing wounds to yourself, odds are very good, especially if you have a weakness token on you, that if you roll 8 dice, you're going to get like 1 or 2 rolls of 1, which is going to result in an automatic wound. So you're kind of statistically guaranteed to wound yourself once or twice, and then you get +2 hits, which are like a chance at a wound, but not guaranteed. So obviously the drawback, you're going to wound yourself more consistently than the hits will do extra damage. So you can just, you can just do this mentally. You can see that the bonus hits are worse than the drawback. So you're losing more than you gain, and I don't know why he doesn't see this, why he doesn't understand that the drawback is huge and the benefit is like...
It's always tricky with that, and I've always felt like they've never quite given the upside that it needs to be worth the downside that they're baking in every time they've done this. And it's like, and then you have stuff that's just like consistently good with no drawbacks. And I think of stuff like, and I hate to just like bang this drum because I've put this drum away for quite some time, but like Maester Aemon and the Night's Watch, just, heal or heal even more.
Yeah.
Or shields that guard the realms of men. It's just like always consistently a good card. Like, reroll your blocks, your hits, and like automatically block a hit. Like, stuff that's just like consistently good, that doesn't have a downside, tends to be the stuff that's got like this real big upside. And then it's like, oh, I'm gonna have Joffrey panic his entire army for 1 extra hit. Or one extra token, or like...
He inflicts vicious currently. And actually, it was Joffrey. One of the things that he was ranting about was Joffrey. It was like, oh, we've made Joffrey better, but no one will play him because the drawbacks. And it's like, vicious is barely an advantage. Like, inflicting tokens on yourself after getting maybe a slight increase in a chance to, do damage. It's worthless. The drawback is worse than the advantage.
It's like, I just don't know what's there's like a step missing there where it's like, oh, we're gonna give them a bigger benefit because we're baking in this drawback, and then they just forget to deliver that bigger benefit.
You can play it, but I mean, you're going to statistically lose. Like, you will wound yourself more than you damage the enemy. Gregor is not a good commander at the moment, but they're sticking to that. And then Counterplot. Counterplot keeps going through changes, and I wanted to bring up Counterplot because it is an interesting card as far as the game. We talked about it in an episode that we wound up not posting because we were going to do like episodes about each faction, and then it was just too much. It was like a 3-hour recording. But Counterplot keeps going back and forth. For a little while, they actually got rid of the card counter thing, and I was glad they did that because my feeling is that they appear not to be like adult enough, not mature enough to do counter cards. Because they get mad and they're like, oh, this has to have some kind of drawback. I hate that it stops my cards. Currently, the way it works is you roll a 3+, and if you fail, you can sacrifice another card and get another 3+ roll. So Counterplot currently has the possibility to be a major sunk cost. Like, you can trap yourself into thinking you need to keep sacrificing cards to make up for the loss. That's going to be a fun psychological experience for a lot of players. Where you're going to get people on the other side who are going to be like, Counterplot's too strong, and now it like blocks my stuff pretty consistently, without really thinking about how the Lannister player is going to be throwing away 2 or possibly 3 whole cards to block one enemy card, and they're not thinking about the equivalent exchanges there. And then if you go online and you tell new Lannister players, like, yeah, don't spend the extra card for Counterplot, just accept the loss, take it on the chin, and move on, you're going to get players... And not even necessarily low-level players, but I guarantee there's going to be higher-level players who don't play Lannisters, who are going to come in and they're going to be like, yeah, Counterplot's way too strong, it's so powerful, just sacrifice your entire hand, 5 cards if you have to push it through.
Well, and that's if that version even goes through. I mean, we also saw that other version where it was like, you can burn an NCU's activation, or a non-combat units, non-battlefield units activation.
You can give Qyburn a swirly to make it work. Yeah.
I'm curious to see what the final product will look like. Part of me thinks just make Counterplot automatic, because I mean, at this point, like what is Counterplot really? It's counterspell from Magic the Gathering in blue decks, transported into Song of Ice and Fire. It's a counterspell.
Yeah.
And counterspells just work.
And
I was just going to say, I don't even, I mean, we're playing a dice game. So, like, I don't understand what was so, I know Greg has his qualms with the original Counterplot, but I don't know why we need to change it.
Like, make it where it's a 3-up or a 2-up, or if you have the 2 zones, it automatically works, or...
Lannisters are about control, so you get a bonus for control.
I mean, I just don't like that it's unreliable. Like, that's the big thing that has always annoyed me about it, is you play it...
Listen, Greg, I'm 99% sure every time you use it against me, it works, okay? That sounds pretty reliable to me.
We do 3 tournament games, and I tell you what, it's got a 30% hit rate, but it only hits about 30% of the time for me. You're the one guy I play in the tournament that all the cards work on.
So I am the 30%.
The other 2
I think the last time Greg and I played, I think his counterplots did all fail.
Yeah. I mean, I've had games where Counterplot didn't do anything. Like, I play it out and it just misses both times, and it's like, okay.
Well, speaking of not doing anything, I was really curious when they had their Baratheon previews.
Yeah.
And I really liked this kind of flavor they were going for, because one of my big gripes has been, or not gripes, but like, mobility's been king for a while in this game, and I went to Europe for the Invitational and just got destroyed, because my biggest, most powerful card in my hand was Final Strike, and what did my opponents do? They retreated and repositioned and refused to engage me on any favorable terms for me, and just ran circles around my slow-ass Baratheons. And my best card became my worst card because Final Strike did nothing. So they added this new kind of theme to Baratheons where, you can stay and fight, but the Baratheon units have like better than average stats on like their armor or their hit values or keywords or whatever. Or you can run away, but now there's a downside to running away, so it makes you like second guess yourself, like, do I stay or do I go? And I really liked the concept of that, right? But then there's a difference between like an idea and the execution of that idea.
Yeah,
and like,
speaking of being a little childish, Yeah, we talked about this before this started, but so you take a unit and it's so strong and so good at killing you that you want to run away from it, right? You don't want to be engaged with this. So then, like, what is this? Is like, I got special wizard armor on, you can't escape. You also make it so that you get killed for running away? Like, well, what do you do then? How do you win? If it's too strong to beat in a fair fight, but it's also like you can't escape without a penalty, there's no right answer. Just like, don't let it touch you. Stay far away from it. Let it have the objective. In fact, don't go to battle. Just leave. Leave. Just, I surrender.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be answers, right? And there'll be units that are...
Only ranged. Just bring all ranged units.
And in some cases, like, yes, so there were some units that looked like really strong, like the Stag Knights they previewed looked really juicy. And then there were some units that were like the Kingsmen, which currently Kingsmen are like really good. The Kingsmen they previewed just looked like they were just lacking something. They didn't look like they hit as hard as the Stag Knights, and they didn't look like they defended as well as the Stag Knights, and they took away, in this kind of redesign, they took away To the Last. They took away, like, the in-faction healing. Like, I don't think I saw any healing in Baratheons outside of, like, Renly's side had a little bit. And they took away Final Strike. So I'm thinking, if I'm the opponent fighting, like, these new Kingsmen or whatever, and they have, like, 4 up armor and, like, 7 morale, it's like, just hit them. They'll die. There's nothing that they can do. Just hit them and they will go away. Don't worry about debating if you retreat from them or not. Just hit them. Hit them with 2 units, and they're gone. So I kind of liked the idea of it. But like you said, anytime you're kind of dealing with this, like, it's like you want to make the incentives there, but you don't want to make it like, oh, no matter what you do, there's no good choice. It's a tricky thing to balance.
Yeah. The guardsmen are in the same boat where, I mean, like, if you ask online, like, are the guardsmen a good unit? A lot of Lannister players will tell you, no, they're really one of your worst units. But you see tons of people saying they're amazing. They're polarizing because they have that reactive ability to do damage after they're attacked. And it looks like they want to keep that. But it's so hard to balance because if you create a unit that, like, cannot be attacked, what is your opponent supposed to do about it? These things like, oh, you don't want to be engaged, but you also don't want to retreat. Well, you're screwed both ways. And then with the Lannister guardsmen, it's like, oh, well, you don't want to let them sit there, but you don't want to attack them. Like, well, you're screwed both ways. What do you do? What can you do about them? There's nothing that you can do. If Lannister supremacy is strong, you really can't solve that. And it's like such a strange, like, they're committed to that, and it's just like either it's going to be too weak or it's going to be too strong, and they're going to eventually make it too weak because otherwise it becomes like meta-defining, and everybody is going to be really upset. But just like every time I see Lannisters, there's this unit that I can't even engage with. So it just naturally has to become a bad unit, which also is how, everyone who's like, oh, it's such a strong unit, that's how they're wrong, because we've had many years of patches and it's gradually trended down into being a kind of a useless unit. If it weren't, it would be at all the tournaments and it would be a big meta-defining thing, and everyone would say, like, yeah, I cannot do anything about this unit.
Because I feel like Lannister Guardsmen, like, all they just needed was, like, Iron Resolve or, like, +1 morale, and they would have been fine. They would have been, like, a objective holder. And then it's like, now we're going to change them, and they're going to hit on 3s sometimes, maybe. So, like, I don't know what they're doing with that unit or that faction. Really.
I get the sense that there's maybe not a huge appreciation for, like, the Lannisters necessarily. Actually, a lot of people. I was watching House of the Dragon for a little while. I got kind of bored with it, but they had a Lannister guy show up, and they were like, "This is Lord Lannister Donkface. He's very full of himself, and he kind of sucks." But he wasn't like a fun villain like they are in the book. He didn't like show up and wasn't like, hello everyone, like I'm smarter than I look and also incredibly dangerous and I have money. Instead, he was just like, hi, I'm pompous and I suck.
I just want you to know I heard nothing after Lord Donkface.
Well, he's Lord Donkface. I don't remember who he is because he doesn't do anything. He just shows up to suck. He's like, I'm a Lannister and I suck. And I feel like a lot of people look at the Lannisters that way. And I think to really like the Lannister faction, you have to like villains and kind of appreciate, because the Lannisters are that great type of villain that, like, they're very, very evil, but they're relatively cunning and also all plant the seeds of their own destruction throughout the book. Like it's like I here I go, watch me do evil. Oh no, consequences! Oh god, and they like panic about, and it's great because they have all these like clever schemes, and they just don't see far enough ahead. Like it's all short term scheming, at least with Cersei anyway.
Yes,
arguably with Tywin too, because he upsets Tyrion. He couldn't have predicted he would have been shot, but I mean, I don't think he was terribly angry about it when it finally happened. When Tyrion was like, "I'm here to kill you," and he's just like, we're finally at this time. It was going to be me or you, Tyrion. And that, like, that's good villainy. Just be like, aha, the consequences. I've seen them befall many of my forebears. I knew one day they would come for me as well. Yeah, I feel like maybe there's a little bit of a people who kind of don't even really like the faction that much, who just like are like, oh, they suck and they should suck. But that brings me to Michael Chanel keeps talking about
it's tricky.
Lannister morale.
It's always tricky. Yeah,
Lannister morale.
Let's get this morale in 1 sec. Let me get this in real quick. It's always tricky because, like I alluded to earlier, with spells like counterplot being like a counterspell from magic, and a faction like the Lannisters kind of filling that role, blue has always like been considered a very unfun opponent or style to play against, and so it's always tricky when you're trying to like have this kind of like control faction, or if that's going to be their identity, like this control faction to play against, and like not be able to do all your stuff. A faction that just tells you no, you can't do that. And so it's like, yeah, it's like I want your cards to work reliably, so you're not just like in this unfun casino game where it feels like your stuff is just like, I have no confidence in this working because it might not even work. But at the same time, it's like your opponent also needs to be able to play the game. It's always tricky. So I always like, even if I'm not thrilled with the final product, I can appreciate how difficult it can be, right? But here's something that I think we both have had an axe to grind with for a while, Greg, and that would be the morale value of these villainous factions, like the Lannisters.
Yes. Yeah, so Chanel, he's in his podcast, he keeps talking about how like the Lannisters need to have bad morale because they're just paid soldiers. Unlike the Starks, who are like super happy to be conscripted into the army and taken away from their families and their farms to go die in King's Landing, miles away from home. Nothing's a better boost to morale than not really knowing why you're here, but being told it's for the benefit of the King Starks. They're switching over morale. They're making it kind of more like an armor value.
Potentially.
Which is probably, potentially. This is something that they're pitching. And I think that would be better for consistently making it work, because when you're rolling, you get the bell curve, right? The more dice you roll, the more you hit a bell curve. So if you're going to be rolling like 3 or 4 dice or whatever, and you're looking for a 3 or higher on any of those dice, the odds of like at least one of them being a failure goes up. And it becomes like, oh, panic factions could actually do something. So that might be a benefit. On the other hand, like as it is, everybody is always trying to look for units that have better morale or like Iron Resolve or stuff, because nobody really wants to fail their morale tests. So having panic be like a special alternate situation might be more fun for the game, honestly. But I just don't understand why Lannisters explicitly have to have such bottom barrel morale. And then the argument is that, well, they're paid really well. And that's not as uplifting as dying outside your home country.
Yeah.
For the benefit of the king, who...
And, like, every faction's gonna have, like, conscripted guys. Or, like, if that's the case, why are any of the mercenary factions, like, good morale? Like, why are Stormcrow dervishes running around with 5-up morale?
Yeah, you'd think that it would reflect the quality of their training. Because, I mean, like, if you read any kind of military text, no one is ever like, oh, yeah, units break because some of them are just paid good and others of them are, like, super motivated. No, they talk about, like, oh, yeah, like, they break because the commander gave an order to retreat and they all think they're going to die. And, they're not well trained, is not as well trained or as well experienced. Like, this is their first battle and their friend just got shot through the face and they freak out. Like, morale is kind of based on the situation. It's a little awkward to try to say like a certain race of people or a certain like region of people are just naturally all cowardly.
Yeah.
And
I think if they wanted to like just kind of have it kind of general blasé, like if you're like your more conscript guys, they'll have worse morale, and then like your more elite guys will have better morale. One thing that I always found super frustrating back in like way back in the 2021 patch was like when I had my like elite 7-8 point Baratheon soldiers that had like 6 morale, and then I look across the table and it's like, oh, there's a Night's Watch, and their entire roster was 5 morale. In this case, the lower number was better, and their entire faction was 5 up morale. And I'm like, cool. I'm so glad I'm paying all these extra points for my elite guys to be not as elite.
As the Night's Watch of all people. Which is also the other... Why? The Night's Watch are a bunch of criminals and rapists. Why are they so high?
We gotta make sure those Lannisters have bad morale, though.
Lannisters just get paid good. Like, of course they don't have good morale. I don't know. There's no logic there. I don't agree with
the better pay like help improve morale? Like, oh, we have better food at our camp, and we've got better equipment, and we were more secure in our lives being maintained, and like.
Kurt, stop thinking with your brain, sir.
Like, I don't know. If you can argue that there's a gameplay reason for it, like, oh, we need this balance, but. The only thing I could think of is that as long as the Panic factions have really bad morale, then technically Panic never becomes totally obsolete, because the Panic factions are always good against themselves.
Yes.
In mirror matches, not against anyone else. But
yeah, I never quite understood that fully. Why the Boltons and Lannisters were. They did Panic stuff, but they were the most susceptible to that Panic stuff.
Because they're dastardly.
They're
cowardice villains.
Because if they run away, Tywin or Ramsay won't punish them? I don't...
Yeah. Like, how is it... I don't know. It doesn't make any logical sense. So if the argument is like, oh, it's for flavor that Lannister guardsmen are, like, untrained cowards who have... Like, they're the most heavily armored... like conscripted infantry on the field. Like they have, why are they not more confident than the other guy? Like you cannot tell me the Stark Swornsword over there has any idea why he's killing the Lannister guardsman better than the Lannister guardsman knows. It's like, look, we both say we're defending kings.
Our honor, grumble, grumble.
Grumble, grumble, grumble. Yeah, like this is all coming from the perspective of like, okay, Michael Chanel has read the book. And he knows who's in the right and who's in the wrong. He knows that Joffrey is illegitimate. But the Lannister guardsman doesn't know that. He's never even seen Joffrey. Yeah. He doesn't know who these people are. Neither does the Stark Swornsword, for that matter. I mean, like, Robb was often... he was like, over by Casterly Rock. He was, like, in the mountains of Casterly Rock. They were in their hometown. Like, a lot of the Lannister guardsmen would have been fighting in their, like, homes. In their, like, the areas where their wives and children were. Why? Do they not have anything to believe in?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, even in the books, when this idea of, like, oh, Northmen are worth 3 Southern men, like, in the very first book, Arya sees, like, the casualties, after Ned confronts Joffrey in the throne room or whatever, and it's like, no, there's like 3 dead North guys for every 1 dead Lannister guy. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's kind of bullshit. Like,
the Lannisters have money and better equipment.
Crazy how that is an advantage.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
And it's treated like a disadvantage. Yeah, I had that exact same frustration where maybe not with the money part, but like with the equipment part. It's like, oh, Baratheons have good armor, so their guys are well armored, and you would see that for the most part across the game. You'd see a lot more 3-up armor values, and then they're so dedicated to being armored that they're the worst at moving around in their armor. Other countries' 3-up armored units move speed 5 or speed 6. Baratheon 3-up armor units, they're all speed 4.
Listen, the honor guard don't skip leg day.
The honor guard,
you should see him when they do squats.
The Tully Shields, the Bolton Blackguards, they were all speed 5, and I'm just like, what is going on?
Like, I don't know if you know this, your armor is made with, like, tungsten and lots of gold trim.
Yeah.
It's very heavy.
It was Renly's fault. It got heavy for no reason.
Yeah. Maybe it's all gold trim. Like, Renly, that would be a very Renly thing to do, though. Be like, sir, all the gold trim is slowing our men down. This is like
but we look
genuine
good.
gold. We are going to die looking amazing. When we get to hell, the devil will be impressed. Yeah, so that was that. And then the other thing that he said that I really like wanted to fly into a rant on was he was talking about how, like, yeah, crossbows need to be sundering and crit blow precision whatever, because crossbows are like major armor piercing things. And this is like a really interesting thing to say, because it's kind of almost like saying, like, it's like lumping all crossbows together into a single thing and not really appreciating, like, modern crossbows are designed with polymers and they're like compound crossbows. So they store a lot more energy than ancient crossbows used to do. But like the crossbows that we have our Lannister crossbowmen depicted with, they're using like steel-limbed crossbows. And what's interesting is that those are actually not really that powerful compared to a longbow. Longbows were armor piercing. You would just put bodkin arrows. You'd use bodkin arrows with them, and the bodkins could punch through plate. And they had a lot of draw weight. The advantage that the crossbows had with the steel limbs was that they could be stored in like a damp castle environment for a long time, and they'd still be good. Like, you don't have to worry about the wood warping or anything like that, like you would with bows. So it was kind of more like we just have all these crossbows on hand, and whenever we get attacked, we just yank them all out of storage and put them into the hands of conscripts. He did mention that they're easier to aim than a bow.
They're easier to use and aim and train troops on. Whereas a bow takes longer to master.
Yeah, so if you get attacked right away, you can just pull a bunch of people into a castle and be like, here's your crossbow, just shoot it at the enemy. And that's the big advantage of it. The steel limbs were not because they were stronger, it was that they were just more durable. They lasted longer and did better in storage. The big problem with them is that they're heavier and they require more energy to fire. So that's why you had to crank them. And it was such a pain in the ass to load them, because they're made of steel and it requires that much more energy to load. But then all that energy is being lost into the limbs of the bow when it fires. So they're really not stronger than a longbow. There were crossbows that were built in the same way as bows. Like, they would do these long limb crossbows, but those were mainly used in China. And theoretically, those could get quite strong, but the big problem is just that you have to have the draw distance. And so the bow kind of like you draw it as far as your whole arm width, whereas a crossbow with like a longer wooden limb requires you to draw it back pretty far down a stock, and then you get this big unwieldy looking thing. So there's different kinds of bows, but the modern bow, the modern crossbow that is actually effective at piercing armor and everything, that uses compound design, which is like modern. That's like current technology. That's like you could give people compound bows in the game and they would be more powerful than the long bows that they're currently using. It's just that technology doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, I mean, even historically, there were different bows and different crossbows, and they would have different draw weights. And the big thing, I think, was just that the bows could fire faster and the crossbows took longer to reload and fire. And in terms of the game, I think they're just trying to find a way to have different weapons kind of consistently do like their thing. So, all right, crossbows, they're going to be an anti-armor tool. Fine.
Yeah.
Halberds and spears are going to maintain their attack dice over.
So, Kurt, what I'm hearing is that crossbows having rerolls never made any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless you're saying like, oh, those rerolls were, actually they're just easier to aim, and so they didn't shoot 2 bolts, they just shot 1 accurate bolt. I don't know.
Easier to aim with less trained people, slower to shoot. I mean,
they probably should have just done like crossbows have a better to hit value.
I mean, longbows with rerolls would have made more sense because you're likely shooting at a volley from distance, right? I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. I really don't mind it from the gameplay perspective. Like, okay, so you've got sundering ranged weapons or whatever. Like, that's all fine for gameplay. But just as far as the logic goes, when you're listening to the podcast and then the developer's like, crossbows, so much stronger than bows.
Well, it's some like, okay. Like, again, like, what kind of bows are we talking about? Are we talking about, long bows that the English had, or are we talking about like a little short bow? Like,
Have you guys
In
seen?
that case, if it's a short bow, a crossbow would have more draw weight.
Have you guys seen the? They found that some like English longbowmen and stuff, like the skeletons, are actually essentially deformed from how difficult it was to pull a longbow.
Yeah, like some of your strongest guys on the field would have been your longbowmen because they were doing that repetition of that draw weight. And they weren't just like drawing the length of their arm; they draw like the length of the arm plus the length of the chest all the way to the opposite shoulder. Like,
Yeah, it was the Middle Ages gym bro body.
yeah.
Yeah. This is the thing, though, is that he was comparing it to the Stark longbows, and he was saying, like, well, the Stark longbows cannot be as good as crossbows because crossbows are stronger. And that's really the big thing that I take issue with. It's fine if, from just a gameplay perspective, you wanted to assign these things and have this be this, this is the way that we want the game to play. But if you're getting up there and you're saying, like, yes, the Stark longbowmen cannot compete with the crossbows, it's like, okay, you got this backwards. If we're looking at gold and the ability to just throw money at problems, probably Lannister longbowmen would be the famed, like, accurate murder machines, and then, like, the Starks would be running around with crossbows because they just gathered up a bunch of people and, here, hold this.
Well, but we're also working with the source material, right? And in the books, the Starks have, like, Ned has this chapter where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to put some longbowmen at Moat Cailin or whatever. And then we see these Lannister troops walking around with crossbows.
Yeah, well, they were defending King's Landing. That was the logical place for them to have the crossbows. They just pulled them out of storage and gave them to guys, and they were like, shoot these down from the wall. And they were like, okay, boss. I don't know. They're tools. There's a time and place for every tool.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't mind the gameplay stuff, but just as a justification, as saying, like, well, the longbows can't be good, or they can't be better than crossbows. Like, that's wrong. They objectively can be better than crossbows.
I get a chuckle out of how much this is like, this really bothers you. One of the ones that kind of bothers me is like, oh yeah, those Stark bowmen who have like a helmet and like chainmail on, their armor 6. Those shirtless, screaming Dothraki guys over there, they're defense 4.
They used to be defense 3. The Blood Riders?
Yeah, the Blood Riders are defense 3.
Yeah. Well, see, the argument was that they were just very good at fending off attacks, you see. It wasn't that they took the attacks and shook them up. Yeah,
I would like to point out that thematically, Outriders and Screamers should be the same. They should be veterans, because thematically speaking, the Dothraki were just amazing at both. And thematically, high defense makes sense, but from a gameplay perspective, it still kind of makes sense because it is going to be harder to hit a mounted unit than just a dude standing in front of you, right? Like, that's why cavalry was successful.
I think their armor value should be lower or weaker, but I think they should have stuff like agile or disrupt.
Yes, I agree.
So that they can still have that. They can still have that, like, hey, it's harder to hit me because I'm such a skillful fighter parrying your blows with my Dothraki sword or whatever, but then at the same time, like, oh, an arrow hits you and in the chest, and you can't block that with your sword, and you're just your bare chest. It's gonna hurt.
Bad, though. Disrupt pisses people off so much.
I think whenever your horse takes a wound, you should have to roll to see if it falls down and kills the rider.
Ooh, double wound for light cap, triple wound for heavy cap.
No, yeah. If we get too far in the weeds of like what is realistic, eventually you design an awful game, or because the game of real life is typically whoever has more resources will win, unless their opponent is very, very fast and surprises them, I guess. But it's like every battle is won before it's fought, and that's not why we play these board games. We would like to just sit down across from each other and not already know who the winner is. Anyway, though, yeah, I just wanted to rant about the crossbows and everything like that. Like, it's not a good excuse. Like, listen, you can talk about the gameplay, and you can say, this is the gameplay reasons I want, but don't be telling me that crossbows have better armor-penetrating power than a longbow. That is not necessarily. It depends on everything. There's a bunch of things going on there. This is like saying that a sword is better than an axe. Like, I don't know about that. It depends. Anyway, those are the big rants that I wanted to get out of my system for the most part. I could go on about Counterplot a little longer, I suppose, but I don't have to. I will say, I guess we've been pretty negative. I will to throw some positivity on there. Some of the playtest Lannisters do look better than, like, they look actually playable to some level. We've talked about how the Gold Cloak abilities should be long range, and they're actually long range in the playtest, so I could see myself maybe using Gold Cloaks to sit on an objective and provide support, which is amazing. I can't believe that it's like, this is finally someone's thinking like, hey, maybe this shouldn't just be a unit that dies and nothing else, like all the other Lannister units that also die and don't do anything.
Yeah, I've liked some of the things I saw too. Like I said, I kind of liked the shouldn't I retreat, stay and fight, what am I going to do kind of dilemma that they're going for. And when I was listening to the podcast for the Baratheon section, Chanel was saying, hey, I kind of think maybe I should be giving these champions of the Stag 7 dice. Yes, you have the right idea there. 7 dice, please, do it. You're on the right track, Chanel, do it.
Hit harder, give him 8 dice. 9. Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's difficult now to give any kind of feedback about the overall balanced landscape because so much has changed and everything is so
and we
different.
have no idea what it'll look like. Yeah, we haven't even seen half the factions.
Yeah, and so you can kind of be like, yeah, champions of the Stag, they ought to be hitting 7 times, and it's like, that maybe, like, in the context of everything else, I'm not sure what is strong and what is weak anymore. Like, I kind of looked at my Lannisters and I was like, oh, these are some overall improvements. I kind of like this. And I looked over at the Starks and it's like, yeah, Stark Sworn Swords can do 9 hits with Sundering and they inflict a vulnerable. And it's like, oh, well, these, I don't know how I feel about anything anymore. That's like a lot. Can I actually stop? I'd have to play a bunch to even get a good feel for it. And I've been reluctant to want to do anything with the playtest files, just partly because I hate the new NCUs so much. Like, if you look at them, the Lannisters now, it's like you've got this overlap with Crown and Wealth quite a lot. And it's frustrating because this is so restrictive to how you're going to play. Like, at this point, you want to take 2 NCUs, maybe 1 NCU, because they're really not that good in a lot of cases. And if your opponent grabs one of the 2 zones that they've been assigned, you're compelled to then immediately play the NCU to the other zone, or else you're going to lose their ability. So that's like, it's less dynamic, it's less fun. It's just like the developer is grabbing my hand and forcing me to play these NCUs the way he wants them to be played, to the zones that he thinks that they should be on, without any real regard for what I think is tactically more interesting or better for me.
I think it's almost like a golden goose laying the golden eggs type thing. It's like the NCUs and the tactics board are almost perfect. Like, just leave it alone. People like that part of the game. They like that element of the game. It's something that sets the game apart from all the other tabletop miniature games out there. If I wanted everything to just be combat unit focused, like, that's what Warhammer is. It's like, I don't want to play Warhammer. I want to play A Song of Ice and Fire with my political court intrigue and my tactics board and my non-combat units. You
can play 1-page rules, and I can actually bring most of my Lannister units to a game of 1-page rules and feel they even fit the roles, is what's funny, because 1-page rules is so open. You just bring whatever. You can bring in allied factions. Like, I have no trouble at all taking those models to the 1-page rules system, except I don't have anything to do with like Cersei or Tyrion or Qyburn or any of my NCUs because they don't fit in a system like that. They only fit into A Song of Ice and Fire, and it's really upsetting to see them, like, this whole playtest began with this idea that they had to kill that golden goose. It's like, oh, it's not the way I want it. I want to make it worse. And I you know, they're like, they've moved on. They're like, we're committed to this. We're committed to making the NCUs less fun. And that's the worst part about this. I really wish they wouldn't do it. Like, we can talk about all the other things, but no matter what, like, all the NCU designs are bad and less fun than they currently are. That's the one big thing about this.
Yeah, I've been, I think, consistently underwhelmed by the NCUs. I think across pretty much all the factions.
But I don't know. At least there are some improvements in the combat units, though. We'll have to see how that continues to develop. But yes, as far as I have heard, though, I've heard rumors that they're going to come out with a Season 7 patch rather than the complete, what is this, 3.0, 2.0?
2021 point
That's a point oh.
for season 10.
New point oh, yes. So they're not going to be releasing this right away. This is still in development. I hope forever. I hope it just gets caught in development hell and we don't see the NCU changes. I hope that what we see, like, I would love to see these combat unit changes, some of the good stuff, be brought into the current game. And then this NCU stuff, I hope that this never really materializes, and instead we just get the cool balance changes that are fun. And they're saying, though, that there's going to be a Season 7 where they take some of these concepts and they put them into the base game. So we might see, like, Champions of the Stag becoming more viable and getting some of those things that you were excited about put into the base game without killing the NCU system. So that's something to actually look forward to, at least until this gets out of development, and then they're like, okay, from now on, you only play it at Crown or Swords if I tell you. So that'll be good. That also means that for Nationals, unless they drag their feet, we might wind up with we might get some changes.
Yeah, we'll have to have that talk at some point. When will we have a version locked in for Nats? We will have a cutoff date at some point. People are going to be playing the version they know, so we'll see when things get released, and we will have a cutoff date for that, for when whatever current mode is out gets locked in as the mode that will be played at Nationals.
Anyway, though, and then finally, moving on. So, Game of Thrones shows. The Night of the Seven Kingdoms came out, and it's done. You can watch it on whatever they're calling HBO these days. The HBO...
Max, Go. I think they're going back to Go.
Yeah, they're changing it around. Max, Go.
Go, Max.
Go, Max. Yeah. It was fun. If you've read the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it's just kind of like a fun read. It's not like there's not a bunch of political intrigue or like they're just little adventures of Dunk and Aegon, this knight and the Targaryen boy. And it's just like, hello, sir. What's going on? How can I help you? And they're like, oh, you could throw cabbages at this other noble. And they're like, okay. And that's the story, is to throw the cabbages at the noble. And then you find out that they used to be in love with each other. And there's like little twists and everything, but it's nothing huge.
Yeah, I like that it's a more basic story. There's, it's not the high ups making the big political decisions. It's something grounded. It's a basic hedge knight and just a little boy. Just a little boy.
And a bald child.
It's only 6 episodes, and each episode is only like 30 minutes, so it's short, digestible, easy to watch. I have a friend that has said it's the best of all Westeros shows, so...
After a while, it does beat Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones starts off stronger, gets weaker over time.
I think it definitely beats seasons 5, 6, 7, 8 of Game of Thrones. Maybe seasons 1 through 4 of Game of Thrones still holds the title, but... And I think I enjoy it more than Dragon Show, too.
Night of the Seven Kingdoms started off really weird. Like, the opening scenes were really weird, and I started questioning choices.
Yeah, the comedy, it either lands or it doesn't.
I haven't finished the show yet, but it's amazing. The books are way better than Game of Thrones, almost, in my opinion. They're just fun.
It's
not real... just fun.
And I think there's something that like is almost like universal. Everyone can enjoy a wholesome story every now and again, instead of this dark, evil, brooding, nihilistic world that we sometimes get, where your expectations are constantly being subverted, and it's a red wedding around every corner. Like, sometimes it's nice to have something nice,
Well, there was not a red wedding around every corner in the books. When I first got into this, like, I actually got into the game first. And then picked up the book second, because you guys they advertise the game days, and my friend was like, "Oh, we ought to go. They have open play. Maybe we can just go play." And then luckily, Kellen had a spare army, 2 spare armies, in fact, for my friend and I to play. So we learned the game, but I'd never seen Game of Thrones. I hadn't read the books, and then I had to go back and I read the books because books are always better. And so I was kind of happy with that. But after I read the books, I was like, oh. I can see why people are upset, because you can see George R.R. Martin kind of starting to write himself into a corner a bit. And it's not that, like, it's bad. It's just that there's too much going on, and there's a ton of different arcs that all need to be wrapped up. And it's like there's this promise that, like, oh, the next book is going to wrap it all up. But to me, it looked too complicated. Like, I could not imagine finishing these stories within a single book. It's got to be 3 or 4 more books at least. It can't be one. Because they're over in Marine. Like, they get just trapped in Marine.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was thinking like I hadn't seen the show, and so I was like, oh yeah, everyone's like, oh, it feels like it was really underwhelming. It feels like it got messed up, and I was like, yeah, I can see that. Like they wanted to finish it, and there's no way that they were going to wrap it up in a good way. So this is probably like the people are expecting the books to come out and be better, but it's probably not going to be all that great. So I was like in it with that idea that if you tried to wrap everything up in a single book, it would be really underwhelming and not very fun, and that's. But no, once I started watching the show, I was watching it with my wife, who's never read the book. And for a while, early on, I would pause and I would explain context that the show would leave out. And she would go, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And it was kind of just like it was fun for a little bit. But then around when Joffrey died, I started pausing the show and she'd be like, could you explain this? And it was like the show is just completely making up its own storylines now. Like there's nothing. This was not in the book. None of this happened. Like, and they do things that are strange, like stuff that just gets. Like I don't know why they did it. They bring Jaime back like early. That
Jaime go to Dorne.
Jaime goes to Dorne. Yeah, they like bring Jaime back to King's Landing early, but for no reason. And I don't know why that. Like maybe just the. Like you could see maybe the writing, you could kind of be charitable with that and say like maybe he had to come back because of the way that they wrote the show. But then he comes back and everyone whines at him because he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
But in the book he wasn't even there, which is why he didn't do anything, because he wasn't present.
Yeah.
And then he in the book he has sex with Cersei in the Sept, like where Joffrey's body is, and it's kind of like a. Like, Jaime does not care that Joffrey is dead. And Cersei is like, wait, we shouldn't. But she doesn't, like, really stop it or anything. She's not actually against it. She's just like, because afterwards she's like, it's so good. I'm so glad to see you again. Like, she's excited that he's there. It's kind of like no one really cared about Joffrey, is the impression that you get. But in the show, they bring him back and he's, like, been there for a while.
Yeah.
The Sept is where he first sees her again in the book, so that's why he's overcome with lust for his sister. But then in the show, he's just like been hanging around. And then, like, I don't know, Joffrey being dead is when he's like, and now it is time to bang. It's like, why? And not only that, he rapes her. And she's like, no. Because, like, logically, why there? Why now? And he just goes through with it anyway. And it's like, why assassinate the character like that? And then weirdly, Cersei is the one who tells Jaime that she wants to announce that they're an item. And then Jaime is the logical one who's like, that would be a bad idea. In the book, it's the other way. Jaime is like, forget it. I don't care. Like, let's declare our love. And Cersei is like, no, I'll be executed. Your kids will be executed. We'll all die. And Jaime's like, he sulks.
Yeah, they make some interesting choices in the original show. So far, though, in Dunk and Egg, it's been pretty true to the books.
It has been. I was shocked when the Kingsguard appeared, and they were wearing white.
Yeah.
In Game of Thrones, they refused. They were like, that would look dumb, and they just didn't do it. But in Dunk and Egg, they're wearing the white, just like it says in the books.
Yeah, they're kind of like gold when it's Robert's Kingsguard, and then, like, they change to be, like, they get, like, the Faith of the Seven kind of look when Tommen takes over, and then they're, like, black when Cersei takes over. Like, Black Knights. And then we get, like, a flashback for, like, the Tower of Joy and, like, the Targaryens. It's, like black and silver. It's like, they're still not white.
Yeah. Those show writers, I don't know what it is about the Game of Thrones show writers. They went on for a little while, they were successful, and then they just take over and are unable to do anything correctly. And, my wife joked, because she had seen the show before and I hadn't, and I was, like, painting my Lannisters bright red with, like, exciting, colors and things. Because that's how they're depicted in the book. They're just like, oh, yeah, they're, like, bright red, and she was like, oh, why are you painting your Kingsguard, like, white? I was like, because the book says they wear white enamel armor. And she's like, oh, they don't do that in the show.
Yeah. I feel like they did a great job casting characters for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Dunk, perfect. Lionel fills the role. Favorite character. Once again, House Baratheon coming through with the best characters. By the way, just want to point that out. And even
proud history of alcoholism.
I know so many times child actors can be like the poison egg to your show, but the kid that plays Egg's adorable. He does a great job.
I think it's because Egg is supposed to be a sassy little kid, and they cast a sassy little kid to play Egg. And they nailed it. It's like, here we go. Egg is a little bit of an asshole, and it's like easy for a kid to be a little bit of a know-it-all asshole. Some of his lines, he's got some pretty good lines though. I like when like one of the King's Guard is telling Dunk, he's like, yes, I used to be a fisherman, and then Dunk comes back later to tell Egg about it. He's like, do you know that guy used to be a fisherman? And he just like turns, like the kid just like looks like so affronted, and he's like, his father owns half the fishing fleets in his lands.
He wasn't actually a fisherman. He just owned fishermen.
Yeah.
I think that might have been like in there, like it's kind of like fake out, like he's like Davos, and that's like what people are supposed to connect that to, like, he's a crabber's son. Or...
Yeah, the show is a little tongue in cheek. I feel like I think you were the one who told me that George R.R. Martin liked the writers for this show more than he likes the House of the Dragon writers, or what the Game of Thrones writers wound up doing. Yeah. I think you can see a little bit of tongue-in-cheek where they're making fun of what a poor job the show staff and those other shows have done with the source material. Because they open up... We were talking earlier about, like, well, they make some comedic choices that maybe are a little over the line. Like, they start to play the theme song from Game of the Thrones. He's like, I'm
heroic, the opening theme.
Bum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, ba-da-dum. And then they just cut to Dunk, like, pooping. And I'm pretty sure the message there was like, a dump on your Game of Thrones music, a dump on your show stuff. We're not doing this, no. And then they do cut into, like, their own stuff, their own kind of identity. And they're just like, this is Dunk. He's not a big Game of Thrones guy. He's never going to sit on the throne. He becomes a Kingsguard later on, but that's like way in the future.
Yeah, astute viewers will remember that scene in Game of Thrones with Joffrey and Jaime, and they're looking at the white book, and Joffrey's like, Duncan the Tall, he has 4 full pages of accomplishments. So we know Dunk's going to go on to bigger and greater things, but right now he's just a lowly hedge knight.
Unlike the crab fisherman guy, he truly does come from nothing.
Again, I want to know though, is Dunk really a hedge knight?
Oh yes, that's something they explore throughout season 1.
Yeah, they keep hinting at that. They sort of they don't go either way. They don't tell you whether or not he actually got knighted.
Correct.
They imply that he didn't, but it's not even like again, it's very tongue in cheek, where it's like they have these scenes where they're like, maybe I didn't get knighted, but then they have like a reveal where it's like, oh no, that doesn't definitively prove I didn't get knighted.
It's so to be completely fair, Martin has said he kept it that way on purpose, and I like to believe that Dunk thinks he was knighted, because let's be real, Dunk's not very smart. But I think part of the point is kind of the opposite of Game of Thrones, where everybody's just horrible, whether they're a knight or not. And then in Knight of Seven Kingdoms, he acts like a knight is supposed to, but is he a knight?
Mm-hmm.
I would go so far.
What does it mean to be a knight? Is the real knight the guy that has the official title, or is it the guy that actually walks the walk?
You know what? When they question Dunk about whether or not he's actually knighted, I went so far back, I didn't even question whether or not Sir Arlen knighted him. I questioned Sir Arlen's authenticity. I was like, do we have papers on Sir Arlen, come to think? Like, we described the guy. Like, how do we know that Sir Arlen ever had knighthood? It's just sort of like a knight you can create a knight, but how do we prove that? Like, where is Pennytree? Mm-hmm. Show me someone who knows that he was
knighted Sir Arlen.
Yeah. So that could be, I could see that as a twist, is like later on, and they would release a book where it would be like, oh, Duncan was knighted by Sir Arlen, but Sir Arlen was never himself knighted.
I'm very curious to see, the future seasons. And one thing I don't want to get into like spoiler territory, but one thing I'm really curious to see if in the later seasons, because this is going to be like 3 seasons, maybe 4 seasons, we'll see where it goes. But I'm really curious to see if they'll show us the events that transpire at Summerhall or not. Because Summerhall is this big thing that's like, it is to Dunk and Egg what Tower of Joy was to Game of Thrones, in a sense, right? In terms of its magnitude.
Well, if it goes on long enough, you would think. You never know, though, with Game of Thrones. I've seen people say that Game of Thrones is just a cursed series. Like, it's not bad or anything like that, but you better not expect that anything is ever going to get closure or, like, handled with quite the level of care that it deserves. All the licensing winds up messed up somehow. I was watching House of the Dragon for a little while, and it's very slow. Like, I wasn't turned off by it right away, but it really drags. There's not a lot of super likable characters. And then it got to be a little bit comical when they were like, we have to go battle the Crabbler. And like Daemon flies out to go battle the Crabbler. And that's fine. Like, I don't mind them fighting the Crabbler. What got stupid is when they were sitting around trying to make a battle plan to defeat the Crabbler. And they're like, what can we do? What if we offer up Daemon as bait? And that was the whole plan. They just like sent Daemon to go offer himself up as bait. And he like just goes out there by himself. And the Crabbler's like, okay, go. 5 guys, go.
Send like 3 guys.
Yeah, send 5 guys. You have 5 guys, go. And then Daemon like picks up his sword and kills those 5 guys. And the Crabbler's like, okay, 5 more guys. He just keeps doing this. And it's like a long, drawn out scene. And they just keep cutting back. Like the Crabbler has no speaking lines. He just like nods his head. And then it cuts to like 5 more guys running out of the caves. And then they get killed. And then the Crabbler's like, okay, 5 more. And he does it like 3 times. They get the rule of 3s. It becomes a joke. And I don't think the writers meant for it to become a joke, but by the after you do it 3 times, it's the rule of 3s. And like then I was just laughing. At the third time he did it, I was starting to crack up. Because it's just like, oh my god, the whole plan was that Daemon goes and stands on the beach and kills the Crabbler's army 5 men at a time. And it works! That's the dumbest thing, is that it proves that they treat it like a genius masterstroke. And I don't know, like, why did no one in the room think that this was a stupid thing to do? Like, was no one able to speak up? What the heck?
I think they're just...
The scene wasn't even important.
I think they're struggling to depict like how guerrilla war against dragons would be fought. And then it's like, well, we don't have like this long drawn out time, and we can't do like what Dune did, and like we don't. They'll have a climactic fight, but they have these caves they can hide in. All right.
And so I can just see this despair setting in the writers, where somebody clever in the room is like, they hide in the caves, and then all the other writers are like, the dragon doesn't do anything, Dave. Now the whole premise of the show doesn't work because it turns out that dragons are not this all-encompassing solution to all problems. We can't win wars if people can hide from the dragon. Nah. And so they just invent some inane scene where they're just like, I don't know, Daemon personally kills the whole army by himself.
5 at a time.
We move on. We get out of Crabbler
5 more
Island.
guys.
We're done. We just move. The scene is over. The scene is over. Now the dragons fight each other, and that's what the battle. That's the show now.
That's the Dance with Dragons.
Yes, Dunk and Egg is a better watch if you've been burned by Game of Thrones in the past, and we're not impressed with House of the Dragon. Dunk and Egg is a totally different. It's a different feel. It's a different flavor.
Experience.
My wife really enjoyed it. I liked it. Yeah.
More lighthearted.
Yeah. It's lighthearted. It's not asking for you to think too much. It's just like a fun story about a couple of characters. It's pretty good. And I think that's it. I think that's all the drums we wanted to beat for the most part. Like I said, I could have ranted about Counterplot for longer, but we'll save it for another episode. I'll probably rant about it again, honestly. Yeah, when we're out of things to do and we have no one else to defeat, I guess the best thing to do is perform a tactical retreat. So thanks for joining us, everybody.
See you next time.
Bye.
Come to Kansas City.